Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another broadcast of Live Your Shelly Ann Minta. And today we will be talking about the fear of rejection. It's going to be an interesting conversation, and I hope that you get involved and share some of your experiences, ask questions. I want to really encourage you to do that. Another beautiful day here in the TO. Beautiful sunshine coming in through the window. So I'm glad about, happy about that. And I'm glad to be here. Uh, let's check in, okay? Let's check in on how you're feeling today. Share with me how you're feeling. Today, I'm checking in feeling very optimistic and really excited to cover this topic because I think it's very important. And there's some things that I'm going to share today that I think will interest you. When I came across this information, I myself was very intrigued by it. So I'm hoping that it'll have the same effect, and that you go away today feeling a little bit more, having a little bit more of an in-depth understanding of how people deal with their fears. So check in today. How are you feeling? You can just go in the chat, and I'm going to start off by saying, I'm going to type in the chat optimistic. And you can join me as well. Just write in the chat optimistic. By the way, I'm streaming both on Facebook and on YouTube. So for all you YouTubers out there that love that platform, you can go out there and you can go and find me there as well. Affinity Dreams is the name of the company. So my company, and Affinity Dreams, of course, is the name of the YouTube site. Really promoting it now because last week was my first live stream on YouTube. So I'm very excited about that. I'm trying to expand my audience and reach people out there that are interested in transforming their lives, not just from a physical perspective, but just an overhaul, a complete wellness overhaul, mind, body, your soul, just everything. Just transform your lifestyle and how you're living. You want to live a more healthy, productive lifestyle. You want to get rid of these things that have been holding you back, keeping you from progressing. People that are going through an immense amount of stress at work. I'm really focused on the workplace because that's where we encounter a lot of our trauma, and that's where a lot of our situations begin. It's in the workplace. That's where you spend maybe 85% of your time. So, although you may have situations at home, they would be easier to handle if your work environment was a little bit more less volatile. So I really want to deal with people that are in stressful situations at work, and it's causing them to have chronic illnesses or to develop a problem with overweight. I want to emphasize the workplace because the workplace is something that it's an area that people don't really deal with. They don't look into. They just get through their day, and there's nothing really in the workplace to help us deal with our situations, to help us cope with the day to day. There should be there should be people that you could talk to, or there should be resources in place to help you cope, so that you don't end up overeating, eating the wrong things, and suffering from extreme stress, mental breakdowns, burnout, and all those things that plague people that are in really high stress jobs, such as IT, which is the area that I'm really familiar with. I know the IT world is extremely stressful. It's a stressful place. There's a lot of happening, a lot of intermoving parts, lots of projects, and a lot of pressure to perform and to be your best. So that's a little bit of background of what I'm doing and what I deal with, what's topics I kind of put, that I focus on this channel, and what I'm looking at. But in general as well, I cover in general as well, things that that really affect your behavior, and really and that affect you as a human being, and that become a challenge to you, and that creates negative behavior patterns that impact you on a day-to-day basis. So I see Caleb. Thank you for tuning in. I see Caleb's checking in and being hopeful, and also so just to remind you again, if you're coming in and you haven't heard it before, check in with me and let me know how you're checking into this broadcast, where you are right now in your state of mind and being. Also, I would like to emphasize that I do want to hear from you, and I want to cover some of the things that may be of interest to you. So if you could also let me know what things you'd like me to talk about, or if you want me to revisit a subject. Okay, so let's go. Let's get into this right now, because I really want to cover a few points, and I don't want to run out of time this week. So we're talking about fear of rejection. And I think that all of us understand what it feels like to be rejected. At some point in your life, you did feel some sort of rejection. Somebody passed you up for a position in your company. Somebody didn't include you in a conversation or a discussion. You were forgotten from a meeting. Sometimes it's little things, and sometimes it's huge, like a breakup. When somebody breaks up with you, that's a huge life-changing experience, especially if it's a marriage and divorce is involved. That could shake your world. But I'm talking about just like the little things that happen to you every day that begin to grate against your nerve and begin to pile up. Just like I said, you're having a conversation and there are three or four of you, but you're not included. The other three people, or two people in the conversation, kind of get into a private conversation on their own, and they're not including you. You feel like if you don't even exist. That kind of feeling, the feeling of not being wanted, needed, etc. Okay, that rejection. People fear it, because at the moment you experience it for the first time or so, that's it. You don't want to experience it again, and you will do anything to avoid it. Right? But what is rejection? What is it really? Okay. Is it just an emotion? Is it just something that is trivial? What is it? Well, I I say to you today that rejection is extremely serious, on all levels. Why do I say that? Because human beings are wired to be in a community, and to be a part of a tribe, and to feel accepted and loved. And to be accepted and to be loved is one of our driving forces. It's one of the major driving forces in human behavior. So if you are not able to fit in, to be accepted, to be loved, you cannot operate normally. You you cease to function normally as a human being. We are wired that way because of survival. From the beginning of time, human beings have grouped together to survive, to be able to hunt together and eat and to get food and cuddle together to get warmth and protect each other. A person alone will not survive for very long, but when people group together and they become extended family, like just not you and your wife and your kids, but a whole community, then the survival rate goes up. And so that's why we through natural, through natural transition and changes in your physical being, you have become, your brain and everything has adjusted to that reality. Because as time went along, we obviously adapted to our environment and to our and also to the things that we learn. It influenced how our we function as human beings. What I'm trying to say is that not only did we change our habits, but our neurons and how our brain is wired changed as well, so that we could survive. Okay, some people call it they may call it natural selection. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get into a discussion about natural selection and all that. But what I really want to focus on is that at least I think everybody can agree that human beings change, they transform, and they adapt. Okay, that's why we survive. Even today, you notice when we need something, we begin to innovate and try to find a way to deal with it. If there is a lack, we try to find a way to fill in the gap so that we survive. We are as a species great survivors. We strive to survive. And so, for the most part, I would say yes, human beings are survivors. But there are some of us that fall through the cracks. There are some people that become outcasts. They become ostracized. Why? Because they have lost their survival instincts. That's why. And why does that happen? Because over time, situations and scenarios bring them to a point where they become incapable of naturally doing the things that they need to stay alive, keep themselves healthy, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so let's get into it. What is rejection from a clinical point of view? Uh, Taking aside emotions and all that, what is rejection? Well, a study, I believe, in 2003 um, resulted in the conclusion that when you are rejected, you feel a pain that is the same as if you cut your arm off or if you were injured physically. So, the rejection that you feel, the pain of the rejection, the hurt of rejection, is the same as though you were physically injured. How did they know that? They took an MRI of the scan, an MRI of the brain. And so then that's when they saw that the area, the pain regions that are connected to physical pain, to physical injury, are the same regions that are connected to the rejection from a societal rejection or relationship rejection. It's the same, because you're, instead of creating new neural paths for emotional or whatever, or societal or relationship rejection, the brain has co-opted the same regions and the same neural paths for that is used for physical injury or pain. And that is very eye opening. It's very serious. And this is a 2003 um, study, which means to say that this information is fairly new. It's a new way of approaching this type of mental breakdown. Okay. So that um, this information also is very helpful in treating people that are going through rejection. And now I can I can very comfortably say treating, because now we see that rejection is something that is treatable, and it is real. It's not just some kind of you know neurotic, inconsequential type of situation. It is a very real situation, and it had and if we're saying that it has the same effect as getting your arm chopped off, or being stabbed, or being injured physically, which people do take seriously. If you show up with your hand bleeding, or your chest cut open or something, people are going to react. People are going to be concerned, and they are going to be empathetic toward your situation. The thing is about rejection is that you can't see the injury, and you can't see how deep and how painful it is. It's not as you're not as perceptive when it comes to people going through the internal pain. And so people don't react the way you feel that they should. They don't. It's not adequate reaction to the situation. It's sort of like, get over it already. It happened, move on. They don't realize what's going on the inside of you. Well, what is going on the inside? Aside from the fact that it affects the region of the brain, which is here, it's the frontal cortex. It affects that region of the brain that deals with pain. The other thing is that this region of the brain that deals with pain interacts with other parts of the brain that govern behavior, emotion, decisions. So if that is the case, it means to say that when you are experiencing the pain of rejection, it is going to dictate how you behave, how what you say, what you do, and your decisions. So that is a major, okay? The other thing is that they did another study, and I believe this is 2000. Let me see. When is this study done? I believe it's 2012, where they created a placebo group, and a group of and a clinical group, or the group that will be tested, like a test group. So the placebo and the test group, and what they did is that they created this game called Cyberball, and they used this to create a situation where people were being rejected, and they tested the brain before, and they everybody at the beginning of the study was being included, and then as time went along, they began to reject certain people. Now the placebo group of obviously was giving some sort of pill that wasn't real, but for the group that was going through the actual testing, the actual test group, they were giving acetaminophen, okay, which is a pain relieving drug. Um, the group that was placebo obviously didn't know what they were given. They thought they were also being given acetaminophen, right? And they didn't really know what the study was all about. Well, when they tested the brains of those that were getting the acetaminophen, guess what? You could see through the MRI that the pain regions that were being affected, that they saw were being affected, were the acetaminophen was um, dealing and reducing the pain, and it was showing in the MRI that the pain was being reduced, whereas the placebo group, they were experiencing pain at an extreme level. So what the study proved is that the painkiller that you give for physical pain works for emotional pain. Wow, that is amazing. Because why? Same region of the brain. Now, of course, you to encourage somebody to take painkillers for rejection is a bad idea, because now we understand why people get hooked on drugs and alcohol, because it really does numb the pain. Okay, whatever we numbs our physical pain will numb our emotional or mental pain. Okay, so it works, but then you become addicted to these other things. So it's not a healthy way of dealing with that pain of rejection. So that's not good. But, however, here is the good news. Okay, so number one, first of all, let me say that that the pain over a long-term period of time, that chronic pain, it does create malfunction in the frontal cortex. So in other words, it's almost like saying that that trauma from rejection creates um, uh, damage, brain damage. Your brain here begins to not function properly anymore. That's how real it gets. And so you end up having people that start suffering with depression, and it's either this reaction to the pain is either turned in or out. So it either you start suffering rejection, depression or anxiety or self-loathing and all that stuff, or you become very aggressive, and over a period of time, people that are ostracized from society, you understand, begin to commit atrocities, like people that are in school that come into school to shoot up the school. Okay, these are people that are on the outskirts. They're rejected. Okay, and over a long period of time, it gets to a point where this starts to malfunction and begins to send, um, thoughts and all kinds of signals to the rest of the brain, and then finally to your entire system, to react in a very negative way towards this rejection. Okay, so both are bad, because one, this feeling of hating yourself and feeling alone and feeling this self-loathing and depression and all that could lead to suicide. And on the other side, um, this feeling of aggression and feeling like you want to lash out against the world could lead to hurting other people. So both are bad, okay? But here's the good news, because I told you it's coming with good news. It is treatable. And I said that from the beginning. It is reversible. It is not long-term brain malfunction. It's not long-term brain damage. It can be treated. Okay? There is a way of rewiring the brain, rewiring the synapse, so that the brain begins to work the right way without medication or drugs or some other chemical dependent way of dealing with it. It's doable. Okay, and you can change this. You can learn to deal with being rejected, and you can turn your life around and become a more integrated with the people around you, and begin to have relationships and begin to connect again. Okay, but there is a process that you must go through to get there. So what is the good news? When we go through rejection, and today, if you are hearing from somebody who understands from a personal perspective of going through rejection how painful it is, and I have solidarity with you today. I know that the pain is real. Okay, from a scientific point of view, it is extremely real, and from a relationship and emotional point of view, it is extremely real. It is real on every front. and it does affect you, and you can't just get over it. And you feel more rejected and more hurt when people keep telling you, just get over it, just forget it, so what? And they try to pep talk you into letting go, but they don't understand that there's actually physical damage that's been done over a lot, especially if it's a little thing like somebody didn't give you a candy, you can bounce that back from that. But if you have some like serious rejection, for example, like I said, if somebody breaks up with you, or if you went through a divorce, or if you were fired from a job, or if you at work you're not fitting in, people are mean to you, and you can't form relationships in your workplace, you can't get along with your boss, you get excluded from certain things, you're not picked for promotions, and this list just goes on, it begins to damage you, and you begin to show behavior that is abnormal. That's the place you get to. Okay, it is very real. And, but again, the good news is it is very treatable. So this is just awesome. So if you understand from a personal point of view what I'm talking about, if you have gone through rejection at any level, please let me know in the chat. Yes, that's me. Say that's me. You're talking about me. And the thing is, on that note, when you begin to exhibit this negative behavior, when you begin to be affected by how your brain is functioning or malfunctioning, it affects you physically. And it usually, because we talked about stress, because it will create stress, because when you're in a situation where you are afraid, you're anticipating being rejected, because that's the other thing, is that once you've been rejected, you know, essentially so seriously in multiple different ways, you begin to develop coping mechanisms, and you begin to put up walls, and you begin to anticipate and begin to read social cues or misread social cues, and you begin to act in a certain way and react in a certain way. Like up front, you're defensive, you're like, okay, it's coming, you're anticipating it, and so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're rejected, you think you're going to be rejected again, so you start to react in a way to protect yourself from being rejected, and so you push people away, and it's a never-ending cycle. So if you are in a situation where you are creating this never-ending cycle, and so you're finding yourself alone, and so it's just, and then you're telling yourself, see, I was right, people hate me, or I'm no good, or I'm worthless, or whatever, that's the reason why I'm alone. If you're caught up in that situation, talk to me, let's have a conversation, and let's talk about how we can turn that around for you, because it's possible to turn it around. Okay, there is a way of getting out of the constant cycle. Okay, book an appointment with me, and we can talk about it. We can talk about how you can get from here to here, long, long way away from pain, real pain. And I understand that pain. Okay, that pain that tears you from the inside and makes you feel like you're going to die. And when you're in that much pain, right? Like if you get your arm chopped off, everything. Remember we talked about fear and the fact that the brain can't distinguish between one fear or another. If you feel that you are going to die, then your brain kicks in and knows that you're going to die, and creates. Remember we start creating these chemicals that start running through your body that prepare you for fight or flight. It's the same thing with the rejection. And over a period of time, like I said, we are talking about stress. You begin to stress yourself out, and you begin to neglect your self-care, and so on and so on, and you have anxiety and depression, and the whole thing begins to build and begins to affect you physically. You begin to put on weight. You begin to suffer from chronic illnesses that can seriously impact your longevity, and so on and so forth. And so right now, you are probably overweight, don't eat well, don't sleep well, and you feel rejected and alone. You're depressed and hopeless, and you feel like you're going to die. Does that describe who you are? Hmm? I was at that place. It just compiles and builds up. It's a horrible, horrible feeling, but it can be undone. Okay, we were we were meant for, like I said, relationship and for community, and it's a big part of who we are as human beings. And the more that you stay in your situation, is the more alone you will be, right? So let's change all that. Let's reverse all the trauma. Let's deal with the physical damage of the brain. Let's do let's go through the process of rewiring the brain and get you feeling better about yourself and who you are, and and bring you into a place where you have the courage to begin to build relationships and get back to being a normal functioning human being. How about it? Well, I think that's it for me this week, and I hope to hear from you. And I will see you next week at 2 o'clock. Every Saturday, I'm right here. Okay, everybody, have a great afternoon, and I will see you next week, Saturday, 2 o'clock, right here. Live your dreams. Bye, everybody.